When I bought the boat, it was run down. I rebuilt the whole boat, the engine, everything, got a bunch of gear. So every year I've caught just a little bit more fish. And now I feel great, you know. I couldn't be in better shape, and it's all over. The real name's William Glover Brown V, but I go by BG. That's my dad right over there. That's my father.
In Gloucester, where almost 400 years of fishing history has led to deeply ingrained tradition, one generation follows the generation before onto the ocean. B.G. Brown began his career at sea on his father's boat as a young boy.
It was great. I used to throw up all day, every day. But then I got to a point where I got over it. But no, it was great.
Today, Brown fears the great years are behind him. In an effort to save fish stocks, the federal government has imposed tough new regulations that Brown fears will leave fishermen dead in the water.
I think my dad's probably getting out of it. When he started out, it was be your own boss, go fishing when you wanted. You know, you don't have to notify 5 different people before you leave the dock. Now it's like we're prisoners with tracking devices on our ankles.
Currently, New England fisheries are regulated under a set of rules that places strict limits on how many days fishermen can fish. And year after year, that number has been cut down. For many species, like cod, limits have also been set on how many pounds a fisherman can catch on any given day. Regulators say the limits have helped, but they just haven't helped enough.
We had to assess where we are in this rebuilding effort for this 10-year time frame and make adjustments to the management measures to make sure the stocks continue to rebuild. Since we've got 13 out of the stocks not rebuilding, we had to put in more serious reductions in fishing effort for those stocks.
The fishermen, who have been dealing with regulations for years now, have gotten used to the necessary inconveniences that go along with protecting the fish. But the new regulations, they say, are simply overwhelming.
We'll have to call somebody 48 hours before we think we're going to go fishing to notify them. Then we'll have to keep in contact with that observer to let them know exactly it is when we're leaving. Then we'll have to call our sector manager, tell them we're leaving. We'll have to get on the computer, notify National Marine Fisheries. It's getting to be a little much, but...
The new regulations give fishermen 2 options: remain in the common pool with reduced daily limits and fewer days at sea, or join a sector. The sectors, groups of fishermen who pool their catch allotments, give these groups greater flexibility to fish more days, and with a yearly rather than daily limit on how much they can catch.
Nobody wanted it. It's just the alternative, staying in the common pool. They pretty much threatened that it was going to be so bad that nobody wanted to see that. So people just joined the sectors because basically they were forced into it.
Some of the new rules, like increased observer coverage and dockside monitoring, also cost a lot of money. For the first year, National Marine Fisheries has set aside some money to cover that cost, but beyond that, the fishermen are on their own.
We'll be able to survive for a couple of years before we have to start paying for the observer coverage and stuff out of our own pockets. But once, that'll be the straw that breaks my back, I know that.
Central to fishermen's complaints is the way catch limits will be determined in the future. Regulators looked at how many fish were caught on a particular boat between 1996 and 2006. So it's the history of the boat that matters, not the history of the fishermen. BG will be limited to 10,000 pounds of fish next year, when last year he caught almost 10 times as much. The reason? He only bought his boat 4 years ago.
So my future is based on the guy before me's landing history or his ability to catch fish. Right. Even though I bought it for days at sea because that's the only thing that mattered. So I know a lot of people who are in the same situation. They went out and spent a lot of money on a permit that's worthless now. And overnight they did that. It's just, I can't believe it's legal.
If you just back up and look at the development of these measures, they started over 4 years ago. And it was public meetings, publicized. You know, they may not have been aware, but it wasn't for lack of trying to reach out and communicate that these changes were coming.
But some fishermen, like Dave Jewell, agree that a change is needed and that current regulations lead to bad practices. Now when a fisherman catches more than his allowed amount, he's forced to throw back the extra or face fines when he returns to the dock. And according to fishermen, those castaway fish are often dead before they make it back into the water.
It's a tough situation when they don't want any fish going back dead, and I understand that part of it. It's a shame to see fish that are perfectly good to eat, like codfish or whatever, going back dead. And there's more of that happening than people know, and It's just because of the regulations that they are going back.
Dave has owned his boat, the Lady J, for more than 10 years and believes an alternative to tougher regulations is better fishing methods. He doesn't use nets anymore, only hooks, and says a lot of problems could be solved if others did the same.
I mean, if you set hooks on something like that and you catch too many, you can let them go and they'll swim away, you know, unhurt. But when you get them in a net or dragging, they're all dead. I mean, we're all fishermen, so I don't want to put one group of fishermen against the other. That's not the way to look at it. But there's got to be a way.
Some fishermen, like BG, say it's not even about the environment anymore, and that regulators just want to put them out of business.
They want to reduce us by 75% is what they said. That's right from the top of National Marine Fisheries. If they really cared about fish stocks, they'd address like fishing methods. You know, stop the draggers, stop the gill netters, put some incentives on switching to hooks only.
BG also worries that the catch share systems encourage larger groups with larger boats like these to buy up as many shares as possible, leaving smaller boats, like his, floundering in their wake.
It'd just be a shame to see this whole harbor go to big boats like that when I thought, you know, today's society was all about the family-owned farms and, you know, green this and green that. I think a little boat like this leaves a smaller footprint than some big, monstrous boat.
We don't want any free money. We just want to be able to go out and make a living. You know, no handouts. Just let us go make a living. Don't friggin' do this to us. It's from people at Cape Pond Ice to the people that sell me fuel to the mechanics that fix my boat, people that sell fish, the truck drivers. There's going to be a lot of people affected here.
Our ultimate goal is to get the stocks healthy at a level that they can withstand the fishing pressure so that they can replenish. Fishermen make a really good living. We have food on our tables, and those of us that like to snorkel and swim in the water see lots of healthy fish.
So in Gloucester, a port steeped in centuries of fishing tradition, that tradition may be threatened by the very regulations that are designed to save it. BG Brown, for one, doesn't hold a lot of hope for the future.
There'll be no third-generation fishermen, at least not in my family. Not that I want that for my poor son, but it'd be nice to have the option.
BG says he'll hold out as long as he can, despite the changes. His love of the sea too strong. In Gloucester, for BUTV News, I'm Brian Benoit.